7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee. A meeting of the Finance Committee is held on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber and duly noticed in two places, including the city's website, in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91-A:2, Roman numeral 2. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Thibodeau?
Here.
Alderman Gove is here. Alderman Moran?
Here.
Alderwoman Timmons?
Here.
Alderman Clemmons?
Here.
Alderman Klee?
I'm here.
Mayor Donches.
The mayor could not make it this evening, and I will be sitting in as chair. Also in attendance is Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Mr. Misevich, Ms. DeRoche, Amy DeRoche, Director Jim McCormick, and also Mr. Boucher. Also on Zoom is Ms. Stansfield and Director Hannum. Going to open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on items that will be acted upon this evening? Seeing none. Communications?
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to copier leases and maintenance in the amount of $39,000 funded from the General Fund /54 Property Services. I'm going to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the renewal of a 60-month lease /replacement of 4 copiers for the print shop, fire training accounts payable in Elm Street parking garage with Toshiba Business Solutions U.S. Bank in the amount of $39,000. Funding will be through Department 122 Information Technology Fund, General Fund /54 Property Services.
Mr. Misevich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Misevich, Chief Information Officer. This is the next round of equipment that is up for replacement, switching from Conway to Toshiba. Same item as that I was here a couple months ago, so this is just the next round of equipment.
Okay. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? That motion carries. Next communication?
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to software subscription, Placer.ai, in the amount of $25,988, funded from the General Fund /55 Other Services. I'm going to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 12-month renewal for the continued operation of Placer.ai with Placer Labs Incorporated in the amount of $25,988. Funding will be through Department 122 Information Technology Fund, General Fund /55 Other Services.
Mr. Misevich.
Thank you again. Yes, this is for the renewal of our subscription for Placer.ai. The upcharge on the renewal is over the $25,000 threshold, which is why we are here this evening.
Are there any questions? I see the Director Hannum is here too, if anybody has any questions. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, my question is, what do we use this for? I know when we were talking about the barriers, this came up as, you know, we used it to see how many people were using those spaces, but what else do we use this technology for?
Director Hannum, did you want to answer that?
Sure, happy to. So I've used it for a variety of things, and I believe that every department has also asked me for information from it. So personally, for economic development, I'm using it for kind of leakage studies. So why do people leave the community? It doesn't sound, leakage sounds bad, but it's why do people leave our community to spend money, so that I can help recruit the right types of businesses so that they're spending money here in the community. Also for events and understanding the demographics of where people are coming from, what zip codes they're using. All of that is for economic development to help build business here. We're also using it as they have traffic pins, so we can understand exactly how people are getting through, so if they drive past one of our pins that we have put on the map, we can see where they're coming from, which highway they're using to get there. And so we're using it for things like, for example, Walnut Oval. We were trying to figure out if we could push people onto Main Street before we needed to, or if people were just trying to get through Main Street, and we decided, based on the top 5 locations, that the destinations for people driving through our Walnut Oval area, we decided that we were going to keep them off of Main Street for as long as possible to avoid any additional traffic. So things like that. Other things that we've used it for, attendance at parks, understanding how our parks are being used. I've used it even just for placement of trash cans in some locations. Things like the Riverfront Park, understanding where people are using certain services. So there are a wide variety of uses here, and we haven't even really tapped into all of them yet.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes, I'm curious, how many years have we been utilizing Placer AI?
Director
This will
Hannah?
be the 2nd year.
This
So
is
we've
the
only
second.
been using it for 1 year so far.
A follow-up?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. How integral is it to the functioning of economic development? Could you live without it? I guess is my question.
Director Hannum?
We could. It definitely has helped immensely in trying to understand how people use the businesses here in the community. And so, yes, there are plenty of cities that don't use these technologies, but they're working a lot harder than I am to do the same thing. So with one person in the department right now, this is acting as a whole extra person.
Are there any other follow-up?
So this is this is reducing potential wage cost in your department.
No, so that essentially there is no other person to do this, so it's saving me time and energy. So it's not technically saving any wages.
It is.
It's just most communities of our size have multiple people in the economic development department. So because we run a lot leaner, this is helping me accomplish the same things that larger departments do.
I know you said there was no wage gain, but I feel like there is, because then you don't have to have another person then pay fringe benefits and stuff. It sounds like
Yes,
you're
yeah.
understaffed, if anything, and you have to rely on an advanced computer.
Yeah, I would say that we run incredibly lean comparatively to most cities of our size. And so, yes.
Okay.
If I was approved, it would certainly save wages so we don't have to have a second person.
Thank you. You got me to a yes.
Yes, sorry. Thank you.
We definitely get more productivity.
Yes.
If nothing else. Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the explanation too, because I think it's a good technology. It's a good tool for us to have. We understand who's coming and going in the city, and in order for us to do business in the 21st century, this is the kind of technology that we need. So, I support it.
I want to add something. One of the tools that Director Hannum had mentioned when we were talking about the outdoor dining and so on, and she was putting dollars to some of the numbers that we had, was something that and I know I'm going to use the wrong program, so please correct me, Director Hannum. The arts program uses is that they do these manual surveys. They go to different fairs and so on throughout the cities, and and I was one of the people that actually kind of like tapped people on the shoulder and said, where are you from? How much money did you spend? Did you do grocery shopping? Did you go to restaurants? Did you buy products here in the city while you were here? And now that you're at this, whether it be the the duck race or whatever it was. And when we look at the dollars that they spent while they're here, that's how they put the monies, and that's how Director Hannum could say, so when we bring people into the city, this is what the average dollars are that they spend in the city. So that's kind of how we kind of put some of those, and that takes a lot of energy, people going around with these clipboards and doing something like that. So when she can actually get these listen to me, Social Securities, she can actually get these zip codes and so on from this AI, that is an enormous amount of thing, rather than having to get all these volunteers out there and get this information. It's a great tool. So
If
I think it's an amazing thing that she can do. Obviously, she doesn't know how much they've spent, she doesn't know any of that, where these volunteers actually get that information, but at least she can get the bodies. She knows that, and then with all these other tools that are there, we can find more information. So, I'm sorry, Director Hannum, you
So,
wanted
I
to
was
add
just
to
gonna-
that? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add too that this actually helps to keep the information anonymous. We don't get any personal data whatsoever, and so if we're out surveying people, they have to one-on-one, face-to-face answer questions versus not having to put information out there. Everything that we get is anonymized through this process, so that also helps people participate a little bit better.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you. I just want to clarify this, maybe from my own ideology perspective. Thank you. That it's augmenting an existing employee's job. It's not taking a job away from anybody. Just because the dangers of AI, of potentially replacing human beings, scares me. And I just want to, for my own peace of mind, it's augmenting Director Hannum's job, but it's not replacing anybody.
Right. The taxpayers do not want her to have another person. And so that's what this does. So are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meisovich. Next communication?
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to architectural design services for Elm Street Garage Office in the amount of $43,700, funded from parking expenditures, ETF/53 professional and technical services. I'm going to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a contract for architectural services for the office design at the Elm Street Parking Garage Office with Randall Paulson in the amount of $43,700. Funding will be through Department 166 Parking, Fund Parking Expenditures, ETF 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Ms. Roche, I see you're going to speak to that. I also see that Ms. Stansfield here, as is Director Hannum, so if you would go.
Yep, so
Thank you.
Amy DeRoche, Administrative Services. This contract is part of the overall garage scope that is going on right now. We went out to bid back in August. Randall Paulson was the only responder to that RFP that went out. This is for basically just schematic design of the garage, how far can we bump out a wall and give Ms. Stansfield a little bit more room in there. And then they'll present us with 3 designs, and then we'll pick the most appropriate design, and then we'll move forward with, onto future design for the rest of that. Then they can price it out, and we'll have an idea of how much that office will cost.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Sorry, Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to vote no against it, just because of I didn't support it at the full board for the bonding. And the more, again, maybe an ideology, I got a little irritated. Remember all those folks that voted against the infrastructure bill for the federal government, and they went back to their districts and said, no, look what we brought you. They voted against something, and then they championed it as if they brought it back. I don't want to be seen as someone who does something like that, so I voted no on it. I'm going to vote no here.
Understandable. Sure. Alderman Govea,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
blanking on names today.
Two just piggyback off my colleague at large. So this 43,700, this comes from that bond that we did of the 16 million for the garage renovations?
Amy DeRoche, no, it does not. This comes out of the parking trust fund.
Okay.
I'm changing it.
Okay. You backed
See
it
how
up.
simple it was?
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And thank you for the clarification on that. Next
Yes, thank you so
communication.
much.
My pleasure.
That was a good question, because I was with you.
I saw that Director Hannum had taken her, next communication?
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to Hunt Memorial Building renovations in the amount of $1,409,933, funded from Grants 54 Property Services. I'm going to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a contract for construction services for the Hunt Tower Window Restoration Project with Martini Northern in the amount of $1,409,933. Funding will be through Department 131 Hunt Building Fund Grant 54 Property Services.
Ms. Roche, and she promised not to do a happy dance.
Yeah, Amy DeRoche, Administrative Services. It has been a long time coming, and I'm just exceedingly happy to be here tonight for this contract. We went out to bid back in the summer for the tower window renovation. We got 4 responders, and after speaking with the architect and the National Park Service, who provided us the grant, Martini Northern was deemed to be the one who was appropriate to work on this project. They actually helped us in between. When the bids came in, they came in quite high, and through contacting various millwork companies, they brought the bid down by $600,000. So they saved us quite a bit of money. The windows are going to be built in Quebec, and that's great if it means that's going to save us that much money. We were looking at companies in Iowa and Idaho and all across the country. But we settled on a wonderful company in Quebec, and they are ready to go, as is Martini Northern, and we are just so excited to begin this project.
Thank you. Alderman Moran.
Thank you. This is locked in before the tariffs that are alleged to be, okay, and perfect highlight and of an example, and I know WMUR is hammering us with this even more so recently. Canada, Quebec is New Hampshire's largest trading partner, and you can see here how it's benefiting the city of Nashua. So please, Mr. President, don't levy taxes on our friends in Quebec or Canada. Keep supplying New Hampshire with great products.
Are there any other, Alderman Thibodeau?
I'm curious, I know it's a important building for the community. I'm curious, will this be the end of the Hunt Memorial Building renovation project? Is this, I know there's maintenance and continual maintenance, that part I get.
Okay.
But as far as the revitalization part, is this the end of that, or is there more coming?
I will caveat that response with, it's 121 years old, and so and water finds a way. So, you never know. But this has been a project that is going to take care of the bulk of the issues in the building currently, and should help with any future water problems, and, parts of the tower are going to be repointed and sealed, so that water can't get into the building. We're replacing a couple doors so that, again, water can't get into the building. We're doing our best to plug as many holes as we possibly can. And if we're able to, value engineer some things along the way and can do a little bit more, just looking down the road and say, well, maybe that's a good idea to do that now, just in case, we will. Because we want to, cover as many bases as we possibly can.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed?
Nay.
And there's one nay. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to contract for space needs assessment for the library in the amount of $123,291, funded from trust and capital improvement, 53 professional technical services. I'm going to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a contract for a space needs assessment and feasibility study with Design Lab Architects in the amount of $123,291. Funding will be through Department 179 Library Funds, Virginia Carr Bloomfield Trust /53 Professional and Technical Services, $9,891. John M. Hunt Memorial Trust /53 Professional and Technical Services, $13,400. And Capital Improvements /53 Professional and Technical Services, $100,000.
Director McCormick.
Very good. Good evening. Jennifer McCormick, Library Director. So this is the next step in our long journey towards a renovation of the building. 2 years ago, we hired Design Lab to do a facility assessment. We did a presentation to the Board of Aldermen about that. So you already know that all of our mechanical systems are beyond life expectancy. We have leaky bricks and metal windows that let more heat out than keep in. So this next step will be, Design Lab will help us do community engagement, understand what the community needs from the library, so we can make sure we have a right-sized building. And then they will study whether it is more fiscally advantageous for the city to renovate the existing building or potentially build a brand-new building. That question came up when we talked to the Board of Aldermen about the facility assessment. Is a renovation really the most fiscally wise thing to do? At the end of this study, we'll have something of a schematic design that the trustees can move forward with in pursuing funding besides just city funding. So overall, I think this is a great investment of $123,000. We appreciate the mayor's support in identifying capital funds for this, and the trustees have used some of their trust funds for the balance.
Before I go to questions, I, if you don't mind, I just had a couple of questions myself. When I was looking at the different bids that had gone out and so on, I mean, they were all fairly close, but there were some that were 9 months and some that were 6 months. There was one that was 4 to 5 months. The two that were basically close and 6 months, can I just ask a little bit as to why they, if you know, why they went between the Design Labs and the Odin's Elo? They seem to both, based on your comments, they seem to have some really good comments.
Right, so why
Other
did
than
we-
that there were 3 months difference in
Oh,
the-
why was Design Lab selected
over
instead
the
of
other one,
Udin's
yeah.
Elo?
The comments for the other one just seemed to be slightly,
Right.
yeah.
Udin's Elo, one part of their package was they hired a library consultant, Ruth Cowell, who worked at the Boston Public Library,
Right.
to perform the community engagement piece. In our interview with them, she did not impress the Board of Trustees. It was unclear what her role would be. And also, one of my reference calls for Udin's Elo, someone I spoke to had reservations about some of their approaches, so.
Perfect
chose
answer.
Design Lab.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've used Design Labs in the past, haven't you?
We have, yes.
I was going to say, it sounds very familiar, like something we've done
Yes.
before. Okay. No, I think that was all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. So, I guess my question is this, does the library, do you think that the library needs more or less space in the future?
I would assume we need less space than we currently have. The building is currently 60,000 square feet. Ideally, that's what the space needs assessment will tell us. We might hear from the community that they would like a basketball court on the lower level, in which case maybe 60,000 feet is appropriate.
Okay.
Alderwoman Clemmons. Timmons.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question concerning the library. The city has grown so much, and I've been in the library for the last few months, every weekend almost, and there's always something going on. And sometimes there is not enough space. It doesn't appear that there's a lot of space, and when you want to rent the library, or not, ask to use the library, not really renting it, it's always full. And do you foresee in the future that the library have already have met its growth, and that perhaps in the future that would be an annex, and we would have another library? Because I don't see that library sustaining in the current future. Let's put it that way.
I would agree with you. I think maybe what you're sharing my vision or dream that someday we might have branch libraries in other neighborhoods. And your comment about there not being enough meeting space, that's 100% true. And we're fully booked on the weekends, most weeknights. The space needs assessment will help us look at the existing space in the building and use it better to better meet the needs of the community. There are areas of the building that are underutilized, and we also have vast acres of space that are just used for storage now. And I would happily give anybody a tour of the library and all the really nitty-gritty spaces if you'd like to see some storage. And what I mean when I say I don't think that we need 60,000 square feet going forward. But I am not an architect, and we're at the very beginning of the process.
Alderman Clemmons.
So I think this is a lot of money for this. I will support it hesitantly, but I can tell you that I can tell you now that even without seeing what the results of this are going to be, I would find it hard for me to imagine myself voting for something that would move the library out of where it is now. I could potentially be persuaded to renovate what's there, but I will support this because I support the library trustees and I understand what they're trying to do. But I hope that a good portion of this study does look at the existing space and will hopefully bring some imaginative ideas to how to reuse some of that space that maybe isn't being used today or isn't being used to its full potential. So that would be my hope.
I have a comment kind of to what Alderman Clemmons, I'm contrary to what Alderman Clemmons has said. I understand that I am not opposed to it moving if it were to some of the ideas that I've heard with a private-public partnership. And did I not hear you say that they would be looking into alternative kind of fundings of, is that part of what this study is looking at as well? Not just taking necessarily city money and bonding and just finding a new place, but potentially working with a private-public kind of, I know Director Hannon had talked about some kind of creative type of thing. Then I would have hopes for it to move to a new location, because I think the building itself is not a nice place and necessarily where it could be, although I do like that location. I won't hide that. But if we could find a public-private kind of, true public-private, not just something that.
So I have a couple of responses to that.
Okay,
So
thank
first, the alternative location that the trustees would be looking at is just the adjacent parking lot.
Right.
So there is no intention or even thought about moving the library out of downtown over my dead body. And So the study that Director Hannum has talked to the Board of Trustees about is issuing an RFP, really just exploring what's possible. What kinds of ideas would developers bring to the table that would include a library and a designated number of parking spots in green space, because our plaza will be renovated this summer. Director Sullivan, I'm holding you to that if you're listening. But this space needs assessment is an integral part of that, because the developer would need to know what is the right-sized library. You wouldn't want to require them to include 60,000 square feet if the right size for Nashua is 40,000 or 50,000 or 75,000. So both things have to happen at the same time. At the end of this study, for my board, what we'll have is a schematic design to bring to potential funders and say, we did the community engagement, we've studied what's right for Nashua, this is the library that we need, this is what it includes, and how can you help us fund it, or approach it from that way, rather than currently what we have to offer potential funders is a long laundry list of deferred maintenance, and at the end of which you don't have a new state-of-the-art library, you just have the same building we're in now.
Right. Okay, thank you. Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this will be really interesting to see what the results come back. I think I'm kind of open-minded to it and take any and all suggestions that these experts give to us. And obviously would like it to stay downtown. I think that makes most practical sense for our city. But it will be, I think this will be something good that this board and your Board of Trustees will be able to go over and really see what the long-term plan is.
Sure.
Thank you,
Alderwoman
Madam Chair.
Timmons.
I do have a comment. I see a vision before the senior center. Used to be on one part of the parking lot, and they moved it in the current location there. So it's possible to keep it in that location downtown, which I do agree, we should have a library downtown. That's my comment. The senior center did it, and it looked great. And I don't know if anybody was around when they moved it from point A to point B, but at the time I was thinking, oh, yeah, do that. But it's in a great location right now, and they just moved it across the parking lot in essence. So I would be supporting this.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Next communication?
From Jim Donchis, Mayor, in regard to emergency PO request repair for wet weather facility.
There being no objection, I'm going to accept the communication and place it on file. But before we do that, Mr. Boucher is here to explain this to us. And I'm going to have him explain it, and then if anybody has any questions, we're going to have an open discussion on that. So, Mr. Boucher, if you would, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. So this is for the purchase of repair parts and technical assistant to rebuild one of our wet weather facility bar racks. The bar rack is a major piece of equipment. All the flow from the city goes through the bar rack. It removes heavy material from the wastewater before it passes through the facility to be further treated. During the December 30th heavy rainstorms we had, a lot of materials came in, damaged our screen, so we saw a complete failure on it. So currently, that leaves us with just one screen and no backup. So we were kind of in a rush to get this piece of equipment back up and running so that we can have a backup screen. And hopefully, before another storm. They're unpredictable, but that was the push for this one.
Does anybody have any questions, or Alderwoman Timmons?
Oh, just one question. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't even know where the wet weather facility is located.
It's located at 2 Sawmill Road. It's at the wastewater plant. So it's a separate facility within the wastewater plant. So there's the main wastewater facility, and then there's a wet weather facility. So when there's an exceedance of flow, the main facility can handle 50 million gallons, Anything over 50 million gallons goes through our wet weather facility. But currently, the main facility is under construction, so we can't use it. So the flow is being forced through the wet weather facility. So that's why it's important to have this second screen up and running.
Alderman Thibodeau.
The influx of debris that caused the damage to this, has that been taken care of to prevent further with this new screen?
Yeah, we've got kind of new scopes. This is kind of untried because, like I said, the normal facility receives the heavy flows. The wet weather facility typically sees the, like the, mostly rainwater, so it receives light flow. So this is kind of new to us using this facility. So it was kind of trial and error to see how we can idle back the flow. We do have some reserve space in the interceptor where we can close the main gate if we know a storm's coming, and then bring the flow in slower. But what we didn't know is that when you reroute the interceptors, all 3 interceptors in the city go through the main facility, we had to reverse some of that flow. So we didn't know how much material was sitting in the line when the flows are low. So now we get a procedure that during the week time, we back up the interceptor a little bit and then flush in the heavy material slowly. And so if we do have a storm, at least there'll be less material in the lines.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will accept the communication and place it on file.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. We're going to do the new business resolution. I am going to ask the clerk to make a motion to recommend approval. I don't think there's anybody here, but, so we are probably going to then follow it up with the,
Oh, Director Hannum left?
Yeah.
she left, yeah. So I think we're going to follow it up with the tabling, but we're going to do the approval first and then follow it up with table.
Unless Ms. Stansfield can speak to it.
I don't know if she can, but let's do the first motion and then we'll move on.
So R-25-123, authorizing the mayor to enter into First Amendment with air right lease with Nashua Apartment Ventures LLC. I'll make a motion to recommend final passage.
Okay, and the reason why I did this was just in case there were any aldermen who did want to speak to it or had any comments or so on. Are there any aldermen or is there anybody online who would like to speak to this?
If there's no one here, I'd make a motion to table.
Well, I think, okay. Alderman Clevens?
Yeah, essentially, I had a lot of questions on these, to this one and the next one, so I would favor tabling as well.
Okay.
And I said I would, so I haven't yet.
Okay. So Alderman Clevens being the
Oh,
The
I will make
senior
a
head.
motion to table.
okay, so I'm going to do, okay, so we're going to have Alderman Clemens will do, and we're going to do the same thing with the other one. Because
Are we gonna do it one at a time?
we're going to do one at a
Yeah.
time, yes, absolutely. We're going to read them, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing, so. So first we,
All in favor on the table?
yes, so first of all, did we do, wait, did we vote on that?
No,
We have not, did we vote on final approval?
no,
We did
it's
not. So
motion to
let's do
table.
motion for final approval first.
No,
Oh, and motion
it's
to
table.
Table.
Okay, motion to
We'll vote on the
table.
motion to table.
Motion to table, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
So, Mr. Clerk.
Next order of business, R-25-124, authorizing the mayor to enter into second master development agreement amendment with Nashua Apartment Ventures LLC.
And you're making you're going to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to recommend final passage.
And,
Motion to table it.
okay, so Alderwoman Timmons. All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Okay. And those opposed, and I'm sorry, I said aye. All those opposed? And that motion to table passes. Okay. New business ordinances.
There is none?
Okay. Tabled in committee.
There is none.
Records of expenditures.
I move that the Board of Aldermen, I move that the Finance Committee has compiled with city charters and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period of January 3, 2025 to January 16, 2025.
Is there any questions, comments on that? All those in favor? Aye. And opposed? General discussion. Yes. I'm sorry, Alderman Clemens?
Yeah, so, again, I don't know, maybe there was nobody available tonight to speak to those two ordinances that we tabled, but, it's frustrating. I've said it before in other committees, and I will repeat it here again tonight, that, we have things on the agenda, the aldermen have questions, this is where we should have the discussion on this. Yes, I could have asked questions ahead of time, but I feel that it's important that these get out, because sometimes the answers to the questions can lead to more questions, right? So I feel like these are good discussions to have. And I will say, and I hope that my colleagues will go along with this, but, whenever we get stuff and there's nobody here, then I'm going to motion to table, and it can sit around, and it will wait for however long that needs to be until somebody can come and explain it. But I am really tired of having to fight to get information out. And, there are some members of the public who have been quite vocal about having to get information from the city, and maybe they're right.
I will add to that. In all fairness, the mayor probably was going to explain that. He had an emergency that he could not help. So it's possible that was what the situation was, and was not thinking that he needed to get someone in his stead. And I never thought to ask him about it until I got here and I saw. And I did send him a text message at the last minute, but it was probably too late for him to see it. But to your comment, Alderman Clemens, I agree with you 100%. If someone is not here, and that's why I had spoken to the clerk and said, we're going to table this, but you're absolutely 100% right, yes.
If I could, though,
Yes, please,
continue.
by all means.
My problem with that is, and particularly in this committee, is that some of these things have a financial cost to them, right? So when we table or we delay or things like that happen, it becomes more expensive. And we're gonna see that if President Trump gets his tariffs in, okay, we're gonna see that. And if we don't have people here to answer our questions, it's going to cost the city more money, because I'm not going to just say yes or no. I want my answers. I want my questions answered. So I'm frustrated, because I thought after the Personnel Committee, I thought after the Budget Committee Infrastructure Committee in October, time and time again.
Yes, I agree. Alderman Moran,
We are the other branch of government. We get to have our way in.
absolutely.
I think some folks have a different way of just asking questions by email or phone call, and that's fine. That's the way you legislate. That's how you were elected. Others want to discuss it openly here or mix it both and debate it and see who comes out at the end with the vote. So.
In all fairness, transparency in government is, we should have the dialogue. We do our homework individually, but then we have the discussion here. So you are both right. I am not in any way disagreeing with you. You're 100% right. Alderman Moran.
And I want to jump on that and say I appreciate that in a chairperson, because sometimes you get cut off, you have Patriots games or Bruins games to watch after, which I would love to watch, but I appreciate you being so welcoming to an opinion.
Welcome. Alderman Gouveia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with my colleague at large. I mean, this committee as a whole really, truly is the sausage making of city government. We approve everything that has a price tag to it. So quite honestly, if there's no one here who can answer questions that I have on the spot, that goes to kind of my opinion of is it really that big of a priority for them to get it done? And that's kind of where I lead. I mean, if you're a director or a manager who wants something done and you think it's that important and it's going to come in front of this committee, yeah, I hope you're here telling me why this is so important. Because every meeting I go into for this committee, and I've been on it now a little over 3 years, every agenda I look at, I basically start with no and then figure out how I get to yes. Because at the end of that, you're going to bring anything to me, nothing, you never want to spend money. So if you're coming to me, you better be able to get up to the mic and tell me why I need to spend this money. And fortunately, our directors and managers, for the most part, do a great job at that. But if you're not there to defend what you want us to spend, then yeah, I mean, tabling is well within our rules in this board and how we operate to do. So that was kind of my first part. Didn't really plan on speaking on that, but so my second part of what I wanted my general discussion to be, and I don't think we have anybody on who could answer this question, but we did approve money for an HVAC system for City Hall, and it is awfully cold out. Where are we in this process of getting this replaced?
Is it cold in here to you?
Not in here, but we walk outside the doors. It's pretty cold. Yeah, are we? Have we gone through the RFP process?
I believe Ms. Roche is the one who could answer that question. She does work with the,
I would just hate to have approved the money, been told it was an emergency, and then have it go down, waiting for the bureaucracy to work out to get it fixed.
No, I know that there's a meeting.
the microphone. Mr.
Sorry.
Roche.
Amy DeRoche, I saw it come up on my calendar just the other day. There's a kickoff meeting for the HVAC process to begin in earnest. So they are actively working on it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any other general discussion? Public comment? Anybody from the public? Remarks by Alderman. I have one. I want to thank all of you because I think your general discussion and your comments were great. Truly, I do. You know, I think you're bringing up transparency. The one thing that we get criticized all the time is transparency, and I think the comments that you brought up about the transparency are important, and I hope the public is listening, because what it shows is that we're listening and that we're not. The one thing that this committee is constantly attacked about is that we're nothing but a rubber stamp and that we just approve everything. And what you all showed here is that we don't. We don't just. We ask the questions. And Alderman Moran, even though you thought that that was something that you were brave enough to say, no, I said no in this committee. And Alderman Gouveia, you were going to say the same thing. And Alderman Thibodeau, I know you were going to do the same thing. So you weren't going to rubber stamp. So I appreciate that. Whether I agreed with you or not, I appreciated it. So thank you.
May I?
Sure.
Okay.
Alderwoman Timmons.
I just want you to know, when I look at the Finance Committee agenda and I have questions, I always call and ask my questions first. So I don't have to say what I need to say to impress anybody. I vote the way I vote. I know the way I'm going to vote, and nobody's going to change my mind at all because I know how I'm going to vote when I walk through the door. So if my colleague over there at Lodge said whatever he said, he could look at me and say, I'm voting for that. But that's the way I am. So I know how I'm going to vote, and I don't care what anybody say about anything, he should know. I'm going to vote my way, because I already know how I'm going to vote when I come here. So if you think I'm rubber stamping things, ask the people that I call and ask questions. I just want to say that. I don't rubber stamp, but I know how I want the city. I envision the city a certain way, and that's the way I vote.
I know you do, and I appreciate that too. So, having said that, Alderman Clements, do you have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And this meeting is adjourned at 7:49. Thank you, everybody.